Hey guys, just going over a painless wiring harness in case anybody has any questions like what's involved. There's a lot of videos out there. Well, there's a few videos out there, but it's a lot to tackle. But if it's broken down, it's not that bad at all. It's very intimidating when you first open the box. That's the problem. I mean, you get this giant box and there's a lot to go over. So I figured I'd just give you guys a little pointer on what's involved. So pretty much everything starts right here at this marker light. So you run the harness. This light just plugs in. And then underneath here, there's a little the little clip to hold the wire. And then the wire goes into the grill section where this plugs in and this plugs in. So it's really easy. There's one ground wire that the factory has that's screwed into the inside. And obviously you just reattach that and that's it. And then you could see it up here. You run it along the top, of course zip tying it so it doesn't hit the radiator. And that brings you to here, which is the same thing again. You plug this in, plug this in, you plug this in, and you attach the one ground on the inside. Pretty simple. Then moving on, the wiring comes out of here. The factory, it should come out of here. But the wiring comes out, and then it stops here, and it would attach to your horn. Now the horn is right here on this one, but the wiring is long enough, so you have your horn here. Then the wiring will stop here, which is your windshield washer bottle. Pretty simple. It's all pretty much plug in, except for maybe attaching a ground. Then moving on, it'll bring you right to a plug right here. This plug plugs into the harness that goes down to the proportioning valve. That they don't give you. You don't really need it. You just clean it up, re-plug it in. It's just a wire attaches to the proportioning valve, and that's about it. Then obviously this is new, so you just bolt this on. On the opposite side is the fuse panel. That's pretty simple. So far the whole thing's pretty easy. And then you run the wiring along the firewall. And then obviously it stops at your electric choke, your coil, and then it'll go to your solenoid and your starter. And that's about it, in exception to the alternator, which everybody has a different setup, so that it's really not that hard. It's just a few wires, and that's about it. So it's really not that bad. Now when you get into the inside, it's not too bad either. So now you can run all the way down. The harness plugs in under here and then runs along here all the way to the back. It'll plug into your gas tank, your brake lights, shoot across the fuel tank, and so on, and to the other side. Not a lot going on. There is a trailer hitch attachment stuff. It's really not that hard. It's just mainly plugging in. Everything's mainly plug-in, in exception to a few grounds. It's pretty easy. Now when you take the dash out, I guess this is the hardest part, but it really isn't that bad. It stops here at the clock. If you don't have the clock, then obviously you don't need the clock. Then this plugs in. This plugs in. Pretty simple. The steering column plugs in, so there's really not much going on there. The heater and the wiper motor, there's really not too much going on there, and mainly plug in. And then depending on what gauges you have, basically the gauges are all just kind of laid out. So you run the wire, attach it to the temperature sensor and whatnot. The heater's on that side. You plug the heater in. the radio kind of spells it out. It's not overly complicated. It really isn't. If anybody, I just bought this, which is I'm waiting for the cover to cover this, but this is I did it. This is really nice because it has the module box, if you could see it, which is right here. But what's nice about that, it stops all the wiring from going under here, so you can access your brake light switch, which keeps it out nice and clean under there, so you really don't have to fight it. But once I was done, it's really not as bad as you think. Most of it's plug in, other than your gauges. These are Speed Hut gauges, which are phenomenal gauges. I recommend anybody have those. Those really, like you said, I mean, it's really not that bad. And that's about it. It's definitely something anybody could do. I would say the hardest part, honestly, is the windshield wiper motor, because even though it's only 2 wires that plug in, each model kind of has a different setup. So when you read the book, it's a little confusing because every year there's a little different setup. But once you figure it out, I mean, this was just 2 wires and the factory plug. That's really it. But when you first look at it, every year has got a little different setup. This one here, just to give you an idea, see, this is for an 83 to 86. That just plugs in, and they give you the different options. So I guess as these things evolved with the delay on the wipers and whatnot, I guess obviously this was upgraded. So, there's a couple different ways to do it. So I'm waiting on the tachometer. That's just 4 wires, and that's about it. And this is just a small digital volt gauge I hooked up. But if anybody has any questions, but the painless kit I did was the best one they make for the CJ7, which pretty much comes with everything. It's got pretty much anything, air conditioning, you name it. The only other tip I can give somebody that's going to do this, looking back at it now, put it on the floor of your living room and literally like drape it across the floor, and every wire that you're not going to use, like if you don't have air conditioning, when you put the harness in, you're gonna have to deal with it. So like, you're best off just putting it on the floor and just eliminating that wire, just maybe cutting it back or eliminating, taping it off, whatever, and tuck it into the loom. That way you could avoid something like this, where I don't have a windshield wiper bottle thing, so this wire is not needed. So now it's like a whole thing, so I have to undo and make that clean. But like, if you just put it on the floor and you just start eliminating what you don't need, because you're not going to use nearly everything that they put in here. This is like designed to work with anything. So like, if a Jeep has air, if a Jeep has a 3-wire alternator or whatnot. So like, obviously you're not going to use everything. So if you could just eliminate what you don't need, it's going to help, and it'll be so much cleaner and whatnot. That way you just don't have to deal with it. So, but it's pretty easy overall. A little bit of an expensive kit, but it's really nice having new wiring and not dealing with 46-year-old wiring. And the I Did It steering column is really nice, just because everything's tucked up and out of the way, but that's definitely not necessary. If anybody has any questions, let me know.